Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order, Charter Township of Bedford, for May 18th, 2023. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with roll call attendance. Clerk Faracco, when you're ready.
Supervisor Jones.
Here.
Clerk Faracco. Here. Treasurer Miller. Here. Trustee Beamish.
Here.
Trustee Dingman.
Here.
Trustee Greenwood.
Here.
Trustee Hires.
Here.
We have a quorum, 7 present.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of tonight's agenda. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the May 18th, 2023 agenda as submitted. Roll call.
So moved. Support.
Dingman and Hires. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Faracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the April 13th, 2023 board meeting minutes. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the April 13th, 2023 minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Support.
Was that
Greenwood.
Greenwood? Okay.
And Beamish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any discussion on those corrections? Okay, seeing none, roll call?
Clerk Faracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, next we have approval of the April 13th, 2023 closed session minutes. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the April 13th, 2023 closed session minutes as submitted. And we'll look at these first since we have not seen them.
Thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Greenwood, Dingman. Any problems with the minutes?
Any issue?
Seeing none, roll call?
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Faracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the April 19th, 2023 special meeting minutes. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the April 19th, 2023 special meeting minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Beamish? Do I have a second?
Second.
Miller? Okay. Any discussion on the special meeting minutes? That was the FOIA appeal. Okay, seeing none, roll call?
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Faracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Next is just supervisor comments, number 9. Just an update on the gas station on West Michigan Avenue that has been blighted for a long time now. We did get blight funding, I think I announced that last month, through the county, and the county got that through the state blight elimination grant. They are currently doing environmental work and their due diligence on that site, and they have put bids out for the demolition. So hopefully, it's not going as fast as I would like it to go, but hopefully you'll see that building demolished soon. We have submitted Eagle Parts 1 and 2 of the application, financial application, which are required for our loan/grant for the River Road Water Project. Those were in by May 15th. Part 3 is due in early July, and the plan review is now underway with Eagle. Maynard Costerison, we had agreed last month and approved last month to get an agreement letter from them to do financial oversight with us and to review the financial processes, review based on some of the deficiencies that they found when they were here for the pre-audit hearing. So we should be getting that within the next week to 10 days and have that for approval at our next board meeting. And that is all I have for right now. Next is public comment. I'm going to read the rules for public comment. I'm sorry that I have to do that, but it bears repeating. The supervisor will recognize all persons wishing to speak during public comment. No person shall address the township board without first being recognized by the supervisor. To provide for orderly public comment, each public comment submitted to the board made by an individual shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration unless extended by agreement of the presiding member of the township board. All comments shall be made from the speaker's podium, and any individual making comment shall first give their name. The first public comment time during regular board meetings is limited to items that are on the agenda. The last public comment may be on any topic of interest or concern to the individual speaking related to township business. Public comment is not a question and answer period. It provides individuals with an opportunity to express concerns, opinions, or questions to the board. All comments should be directed to the presiding member of the board. That's me. The board will not respond to comments made during the public comment period unless it becomes necessary to ask a clarifying question, immediately correct a factual error, or provide specific additional information. Board members may choose to address certain public comments during their personal privilege announcement time at the end of the meeting. There will be no demonstrations during or at the conclusion of anyone's remarks or presentations. In order to carry out its responsibilities, the Township Board will not respond to comments made during a public comment period unless it becomes necessary to ask the clarifying question. All public comments shall be directed to the Township Board. That's kind of a repetition. Number 10, the Township Board authorizes the Township Supervisor to A, interrupt, warn, or terminate an individual's public comment when the comment exceeds 3 minutes, B, request that any individual leave the meeting and/or request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of such individual when such individual's conduct is a breach of peace by interfering with the orderly progress of the meeting pursuant to MCL 15.263, Section 6 of the Open Meetings Act, and call for a recess or an adjournment to another time if an individual's lack of public decorum creates an environment in which the board is unable to conduct the business before it. Okay, those are the rules that have been adopted by this board and that we will enforce. Okay, we do want to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. That's never been an issue. We want to hear from you. But we want to conduct the meeting in an orderly fashion in order to do the work of the township. That's what we are committed to doing. That's what we took an oath of office to do. So, anyone wishing to address the board on an agenda item this evening, you can have 3 minutes, and please come to the podium. Anyone? It should be facing us.
Justin Schatz. Public comment I have is about the agenda item for the approval of meeting minutes. I read the minutes that were submitted for approval. In those minutes were things that were not facts. There were things that were opinions. Things like erroneous statements needed to be corrected. Well, That's a matter of opinion and has no place in a township's actual official record of minutes. So when you're approving minutes that have things that are a matter of opinion in them, especially when there seem to be personal stabs at certain members of the township, that doesn't seem like something that is a legal record. We seem to have a real problem in our township with keeping an official legal record, not deleting it, not destroying it, and in this case, not altering it by putting into the permanent record, voting on it and approving it, matters of opinion, like the erroneous statements from citizens needing to be corrected. These things, when they continue to go on time and time again, are going to lead to further and further corruption. Members of this board have expressed openly and honestly over and over that they do not have the time to review these packets. From the time that they come out to the time that they're expected to vote on things like these minutes, that they do not have the time. I would challenge any member, especially the trustees who are not here in the regular office, to correct me on my interpretation of the minutes, if they've read them. Because I'm telling you, your minutes include things that are a matter of opinion and are a personal smear, a besmirchment, a slander. It has no place in official township business. We need to start getting things correct that need to be. Paying attention to where someone's looking during their comment and things like this in order to cut it short just prove that you don't want to hear the things that are being talked about. There's a real problem with focusing on what should be focused on by these officials. We've called these officials on this board to keep legal, official records. Those aren't things like personal attacks. I also notice on tonight's agenda, we have 3 comment sections from the supervisor.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Schatz, anyone else wish to address the board this evening on agenda items? Please.
Am I? You recognize me? I can hear you. So I'm going to follow up on that with the number 6 and 7 there on your agenda, the minutes here that you approved. The minutes from the April 13th meeting here for the public comment time. It just states that several residents expressed their displeasure with the board. Now, for something that would be useful for the public, if the board isn't being run like a tyrannical institution, it would maybe list some of those things if there were several residents expressing displeasure. What was their displeasure about? The next comment time, it just says a citizen spoke about the loss of low-income housing in Battle Creek. 2 citizens spoke about a variety of issues that they are dissatisfied with. Yeah. Then a citizen spoke about a dump, this one right over here, that needs to be investigated. Now, on the April 19th, again, the public comment time, but it gets really worse here because it goes on to say a citizen stated the board was not acting in the spirit of the law. The citizen was asked to address the board rather than turning to video record the audience while speaking. The citizen received 2 warnings to follow the adopted rules for public decorum and failing to do so, was asked to leave the building and charged with trespassing. Well, that was on video. And you literally just continued to argue with him during his comment time. I mean, the tyranny and the tyrant that you appear as you are in that meeting is unfathomable, but you're okay with it. Because it wasn't really videoed by you guys. Well, maybe you said it was. I got to pay for that and get that for you still. And then it just said a citizen stated his displeasure with the board. But again, what was that about? Public comment time. Several citizens expressed their displeasure with the board. That's all we get, right? But then down here, it goes down to Supervisor Jones corrected and clarified some of the erroneous information presented by the appellant. Oh. Really? This is minutes of a tyrannical situation. I mean, but you guys don't understand it because you're okay with it. It's a system that I would never be a part of, that I was told I was never a part of. Thank God that I was never a part of the system of tyranny over the people here. I was working and still work to give the freedom back to the people, the control actually to the people. But everything that you've done has been showing that you're not for that. You don't even know how to do your jobs. It's pathetic.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Heikela. Any other citizen wishing to address the board this evening on agenda items? Anyone? Okay, seeing no one else. Okay, next in your on your agenda are communications, the list there for you should have had in your packet. And then we have our first resolution of the evening, finance under reports. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve payments of expenses totaling $191,870.71. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Hires,
Support.
support, Greenwood. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
7 yes. Motion carried.
Okay, next on the agenda are our public health and safety reports. We'll start with Officer LaValle.
Address the board, please. That's the rules. That is the rules for everyone.
Point of order.
Yes, board of information
Officer
and
LaValle, yeah,
clarification, please,
would you
on that
address
rule.
the board?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, so Officer LaValle here, one of the Bedford Township officers that work the night shift. Total number of calls for service this past month was 343 calls. Our traffic stops were up in the area. We did just release 16 out of the 17 new officers on their own from our training officer program. Some breaking and entering incidents that occurred last month. There was one on Marie. Someone had broken into a house that they were gone on vacation, stole iPad, laptop, and cash. There was another breaking and entering incident on Michigan Ave with the front door damaged and cash was stolen out of that house. Another breaking and entering incident that happened on M37 Road. There was a garage that was left open and a golf set was stolen, kayaks, weed whacker, grill, and that one. Just so that citizens are aware, if you plan on taking a vacation for a week, couple days, or months, you guys can always call our office and ask for extra patrols or check premises for your house. So we'll have additional officers out there in that area when that those individuals are gone on vacation. Our arrests were up this month for felony warrants, domestic assaults, methamphetamine, and OWIs in the area. And there was a retail fraud that happened on a business on M37 Road. We're still investigating this, but there was 4,000 amount of gift cards that were stolen. So, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fire report, Chief Kokensparger.
Well, fire is was slow a little bit last month, but this month has been picking it up and stuff. We've run up to almost 70 runs so far this month. Close to 400 all total, and the way it's going to continue, we will probably reach the 1,100, 1,200 as we have in the last 2 years. One of the things we got coming up here is a pancake breakfast. I don't know for sure if that's going to be on the June the 2nd, but I'm kind of looking for it on the 24th, maybe of June, being out here and stuff. Out here, we will get flyers out on that, and so that people will know in the area when it is for sure coming up and stuff. Another thing I'd like to thanks to the board for the trees put in the cemetery. I don't know whose idea that was and stuff, but they put in about 6 or 7 trees over in there, and that looks pretty nice in there. They're nice and big and growing good and stuff, and kind of makes it nice to have some new trees growing up in there and stuff. So I'm doing some work around there and stuff, and appreciate that. We had the hose testing and our ladder testing, which we have to do every year because of my OSHA requires that, and when they come through all right and stuff. The only thing we've got left now is the SCBA's to get done, and the masks have to be checked, and bottles and stuff like that. That's a requirement that every year that has to be done according to my OSHA. Some other things we've got coming up on my OSHA that we're going to have to be looking at, expense that they require, and no matter what happens and stuff like that, but that will be down the line here a few months when we make a decision upon that and stuff. So, about it. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next is a report from the superintendent. Unfortunately, Mr. McKinley could not be here this night due to a family emergency, but I will say he's been here for about a month now and is learning a lot, and he's doing a great job to start off with, so we're very pleased. We'll welcome him. And then next we have building official Mark Hires.
Yeah, good evening. As I said before, the permits are a lot slower than they have been in the last couple of years. The total permits in this last month were 41. The number of building permits were 15. Quite a bit slower than we typically see it in the middle of construction season. So we're seeing some renovations, not a lot of new homes right now, unfortunately, but we are seeing some renovations going. I wanted to speak a moment. The supervisor asked me to talk about AMSA. Those of you that don't know, AMSA is Area Metropolitan Service Agency. It is a group of all of the townships and City Battle Creek, Bedford, Convis Township, Springfield, Penfield, Newton Township, Emmett Township, Leroy Township, and then Calhoun County is a non-voting member of that. For some reason that I don't think any of us know, the City of Battle Creek at their last meeting decided to drop out of AMSA. AMSA was put together to try to get continuity amongst the different municipalities so that we had the same permitting systems, the same fees. It also has a Board of Appeals, which is necessary to be able to have the maintenance code, and the Board of Appeals is put together by AMSA. Although Battle Creek is pulled out, I suspect that they really wanted to drastically raise their rates and wanted to kind of go at their own and didn't want to be hampered by a group. But I don't see any of the other municipalities wanting to pull out of that. So AMSA's still alive, even though for some reason that we don't know, Battle Creek is pulled out of it.
Okay, thank you. And building and zoning, Jason Ugetti is not here. He too is fairly new to Bedford, but he did provide a report for me. He had to be at another function. As Mark said, total permits were 15. Total fees collected for those permits was $2,765. Okay. All right, and then blight official, no report from Mike Savio, and our assessor is not here this evening. Planning Commission, I'm not sure if it's Barry or Mike would like to report. Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Jones.
You're welcome.
So we have not had a meeting since the last regular board meeting. We have our next meeting on this coming Tuesday, the 23rd, 6:30. We have a public hearing scheduled for the review of the solar ordinance. So I encourage everybody to come on out and be heard on that kind of stuff. We also are hopefully discussing the last changes to the master plan. If those things both go well, I would think that the solar you guys would see on the agenda in July. That has to go to the Calhoun County Planning Commission for 30 days prior to you guys. And then I would think it would be your June meeting on the master plan, and we would be, sending that over to get the authorization for the 63-day review period to start. On, I guess, a training note, I've been in touch with Raphael from McKenna Group, and part of the contract that we have with them helping us out is a training program for both the Planning Commission, the ZBA, and the contract kind of read that the board would also be allowed to attend that workshop. We're in the very early stages. I just brought that up to Raphael when I talked to him on Thursday, and he was going to check into seeing some things. It's not a required thing, obviously, but with everything going on, the more training and information that we all have, I think the better we can all work together and, hopefully make the process of reviewing things a little bit faster when you have the training. So that's really all I have there on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Okay, then legislative and intergovernmental relations. I don't see Representative Hadsma here this. Oh, I'm sorry, Parks and Rec. How could I forget you? How could I forget you? Because you're going to do a presentation. Danielle Zollner's here. Danielle, thank you. Sorry.
File able to get on.
She said it's on the desk.
I'll see that you're working for you.
Oh, maybe it's on the desktop. Can you, I think you guys have her report.
I believe so. I have a real presentation with visual aids and everything this month. So hello everybody, thanks. First, I wanted to thank everybody for their donations for our Veterans Appreciation. I had major poundage to carry in the back of my car and actually needed help.
If you don't mind, just
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I know it's hard.
Actually needed help taking the stuff, getting it in my car and taking it over to the VA. So wonderful job, Bedford. And the Brookside cleanup on May 6th was very successful. We topped over a 10-yard dumpster in Brookside Park, which was wonderful. Residents came out and actually thanked us for doing what we were doing. But one of the other things that I wanted to make everybody aware of is that a resident came out and thanked us, and he also told us that he had permission to dump his yard waste in the woods there. So, just FYI. I'm assuming that that's not something that is allowed, but just to let everybody know, somebody thinks that they do have permission to do that over there. And judging by the looks of it, he's not the only one that believes that they can. So just keep that in mind. And so the other things I'm going to talk to you about are just give a quick event update, as well as, I don't know if you all want to kind of scooch around so you can actually see the slides.
I've seen them.
Okay, well, yeah.
Thank you. You did send them. Thank you.
So, and I'm going to give a quick update on the millage funding and talk about where we're at with that, and ask for a request for picnic tables and some trash receptacles out at Skeet Skirmin. And then I'm also going to give a grant funding update and what our sort of ideas and concepts are for the Spark grant proposals that are coming up here and due June 26th. Okay. So just so everybody understands how the millage funding works, in 2020, the residents of Calhoun County passed a Parks and Recreation millage, and townships and municipalities They don't have to, but they can request funding to come to their municipality or township to support parks and recreation. And one of the things you have to do is that you demonstrate the ability, you have to make the request, you also have to demonstrate the ability to administer that money and benefit of parks and recreation, right? And we've received year one in 2021 for about $22,000. Year two was 2022, and then we just recently received our 2023 millage allocation for $27,000. And we have had two different expenses that have gone against the millage funding so far, and that was the McKenna survey that went out in the winter tax bills in 2021, I believe it was, for $1,900, and then the Swank movie licensing that supported the movie nights with in the parks last summer, and then we're also using our last movie essentially this June for our June 16th movie in the park. And so we have a total available of $71,572.57. But we do, because part of that is we are demonstrating our ability to administer these funds. One of the requirements is that we have to spend out the balance of year one funding. It has to be invested or encumbered by February 15th, 2024. We have $19,067.11 that has to be spent out in support of our parks by February 15th. Okay? This will still leave a balance of $49,450.46 in our pockets for future upgrades as well as for potential matching dollars on future grant applications. Okay? Now, the Spark grant application that we are going after does not require matching funds, and that is one of the reasons we're going for it. All of the other DNR grant applications that we might submit if Spark doesn't come through require anywhere from a 25 to 50% match on those grants. Okay, so it would be good to have funding in our back pockets for matching on those. Now, talking with the committee and residents and looking at the surveys, as well as talking with some of the board members here, our rough draft millage funding priorities for 2023 are painting and repairing the pavilion and restrooms at Ski Skirman Memorial Park, and we've already talked about that. That's actually in progress. It is considered regular maintenance, which cannot be paid for by millage funding. So the township budget will be covering this, and the committee has researched colors and actually suggested them over to Jason. He's got the color numbers, and as far as I know, he's working on it, and we're hoping that the project will be completed in June before the movie night. And then we'd also like to install new picnic tables and trash receptacles at the park. This is also in progress. We've been going round and rounds about picnic tables and trash cans, but we finally settled on some items, and I'll show you them here in a minute. And we have 3 estimates that I'll present to you, and we're hoping that we can get them ordered and that they'll actually be here and installed by the movie night. Fingers crossed. You know, we're kind of right on that deadline for ordering products like this, so we'll see. If they're not here for movie night, they'll be here for the fall festival. The other thing that we've been thinking about and talking about with others is potentially installing at least 1, maybe 2 pet waste stations at Ski Skirman for sure, and possibly Algonquin, and maybe the upper part of Brookside. That's also in progress. Depending on who we go with, you can buy the complete station. It comes with your first set of bags for the trash receptacle, as well as like the ones you put on your hand to pick up the duty with. And they run for anywhere from $400 to $500 a piece. And they're complete, like it comes with post and everything. The signage, keep your dog on a leash and please pick up after them, is also included in those, which is nice. We've also suggested replacing or repairing 1 or 2 of the lights at Skeets Furman Memorial Park. And I think that consensus is starting to form around it being the park that is directly in the middle, or the light that's directly in the middle of the park, as well as the light that is right there as you cross the bridge over into the park. None of them are functioning. It's completely dark down there at night, and we think for vandalism and safety purposes, this is really important. And it is something that we can utilize the current poles for and replace with very reasonable options. And if we end up getting grant funding, we can go with big, beautiful, brand new light posts, I think is what we're thinking there. But we can discuss that a little bit more. The other thing that has become quite apparent in the parks, and that I think that especially if grant funding doesn't come through, we really need to think through using some of this millage funding to install vehicle control barriers at Markham Park, Brookside Park, and Algonquin Park. You don't tend to see Algonquin get torn up too bad, but you do see where people have run through there occasionally. Markham and Brookside parks are actually being used by people to turf. When we were in Brookside, we did have some individuals come up on four-wheelers, ride right past those no vehicle signs, no motorized vehicle signs, and kind of see us all out there cleaning up, and then they finally did turn around and go the other direction. But what we're looking at right now, there's chain link, which I don't think anybody's in love with. It's a little bit institutional, but it will do the job. To keep vehicles out, versus a sort of placed boulder type of thing that you would see more out towards Fort Custer. We are a rural township. I think it goes really well with sort of the feel of where we live to use boulders. Then they'd be set 3 feet apart from one another, and then there'd be a 12-foot locked gate for maintenance access into those areas. And now the chain link actually comes in, we've only gotten one estimate so far on either of these options, but right now it's looking like chain link is going to run to do all 3 of those parks in the areas that we think would be helpful to keep people from turfing up the grass. It'd be about $38,000 for chain link, fully installed, and that's with the gates, and about $31,000 for the boulders, and that is also with the 12-foot locked gates installed with their poles and everything. Okay, and then our last thing is sort of kind of high on the priority list, is repairing and replacing park signage where it's needed. All 4 of our parks need updated signs, not just to identify what they are, but also potentially when the park is open and closed, what are the rules at the park? Can you walk off leash? Can you not walk off leash? You know, those types of things. Can you get into the stream? Can you not get into the stream? And then we're sort of we're still in the talking phase of whether we replace now or with the future grant funds as they become available, because park signage is relatively expensive. And I don't know, it seems like you all have replaced the sign out front here relatively recently. Does anybody recall how much that was?
I think it was about 700.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought, so that's good. I might have you pull up who that was. Good. All right. So the next thing I'm going to go through are just the 3 estimates very quickly, so you know who we reached out to and kind of who the winner is as far as picnic tables and trash receptacles in Skeets Furman. We started out local and extremely high quality. We went to Landscape Forms in Kalamazoo, Michigan. They are kind of, Larry Reiser, a committee member, called them the Porsche of part equipment. Like you will find their stuff at like the Art Institute of Chicago and things like that. But they're local. They're literally right down the street from us. And so we did have them look into, or give us a quote, because their stuff is beautiful, and we thought the most affordable option from them might be the Gretchen table, which would come with heat-treated ash and have a natural finish on it, so not painting it. And they highly recommended keeping your tables unpainted because they become a maintenance nightmare once you do paint them. And the thing about heat-treated ash is that it's regionally sourced. It's from right here in the U.S., eastern U.S. forests. These are trees that have been taken down because of emerald ash borer and then heat treated, and they can take a pretty good beating. They do really well with power washing. Everything is powder coated, steel and powder coated with them. The tables, even this picnic table here that looks a little bit minimalistic, is 325 pounds. But 10 tables and 4 trash cans cost about $43,000 from Landscape Forms. And as much as I would love to source our stuff from them, we can't do that. So we started looking further afar, but still wanted to keep it a U.S. company. So Belson Outdoors was our next one. Very similar look to the table, not the heat-treated ash, but it's recycled plastic, what's called cedar lumber. It's recycled plastic. Very easy to get those replacement boards, and you don't paint them. You can power wash them very easily, and they do hold up to like graffiti removal chemicals and things like that really well. And from them, we got a quote, and it's 10 tables, 4 trash cans. Like I said, very similar look, steel powder coated on the trash receptacle, but black enamel on the table, which would not hold up as well as a powder coat. And that was $23,000. And we did reach out. Fort Custer Recreation Area actually uses Pilot Rock, and it's not Ames, Iowa. I made a mistake there. It's Cherokee, Iowa, is where they're at. And similar table, 8-foot tables, recycled plastic cedar lumber, but these are steel with a black powder coat finish, so they'll last quite a bit longer. The powder coat finish have a much nicer sort of put together look to them, I think. And then the 4 steel trash cans have a key locking door on them with heavy duty plastic liners and a rain hood, so it won't be raining into the trash cans. And we're also recommending that we at least try a round of bags, heavy duty bags in them, to see if it saves Jason time. Because we were talking about this in the office the other day as far as heavy-duty bags might be expensive, but the time that Jason saves from not having to drag all of the bins into the truck, load up the truck, take that over, dump everything into the dumpster, then load everything back onto the truck, and then redeploy everything, would probably cover the cost of putting bags into our trash cans, okay? These tables also are they're called the XL heavy duty model. If you've ever been out to Fort Custer and been in their campground or in their picnic shelters, it's pretty tough to pick them up. They're over 300 pounds also. We had actually debated on whether to get concrete picnic tables specifically for skeets because of the issue of the picnic tables ending up in the stream so often. But if we want to do concrete, Belson would be who we would want to go through, and that cost gets us a lot closer to what Landscape Forms. It was running right around $40,000 if we wanted to do concrete. We think that this is a really nice. It still gives you some flexibility, but it's heavy enough that, people are going to have to feel really motivated if they want to drag them all the way from the pavilion down into the stream. And a much easier to swallow cost at about $16,000 for that. Okay. Now, the next several slides are ideas and concepts that we're working towards submitting for the DNR Spark Grant. But first, what are our residents telling us about our parks, right? And one of the things that we asked them was, do you feel the number and location of the park facilities in the township is adequate? And overwhelmingly, 87% of people said yes. We are fine with what we have already. We don't need to be looking out and about to acquire more property and develop new parks. I think everybody just wants to make the ones we have a lot better, right? That's the impression that I'm getting from our survey results. The other thing that came back on our survey results is that residents ranked the importance of these 8 different elements. And the top 4 elements came back as park cleanliness, accessibility, family friendliness, and security. And for number 1 and 2, the cleanliness and the accessibility, those 80% of the residents, out of 106 residents that took this survey, ranked those as number 1 or 2 most important. So extremely important there. And then it fell down to about 60% of residents ranking family friendly and security as number 1 or 2. And then there was a precipitous drop or a big gap in between those sort of top 4 and then the bottom 4. We didn't get higher than about 40% saying that any one of those things was number 1 or 2 on the list. So pet friendly, the availability of equipment, activities, and exercise and sports, meaning like sporting leagues and things like that, really low on people's priorities lists at this point. Now, once we get our parks all refurbished and looking awesome, they might start moving up on the list, right? So a little bit more information about the DNR Spark Grant opportunity. It is due in mid-June-ish. June 26th is the exact date that it is due. I would like for us to be ready to submit by mid-June at the very latest. And I was told repeatedly by the grant coordinator, and she emphasized it in an email to us too, that we do not need professional services because this is concept only is all they need. We can submit up to 3 applications with 1 park on each of those applications, and we can ask for up to $1 million each in those applications. But we have to demonstrate we need that $1 million, depending on, looking at our concept. We can't, submit a relatively simple concept and be like, we need $1 million to do this, right? So we still have to provide research estimates and things like that, and have a pretty good idea of what the things we want to do are actually going to cost us. Okay, and the other thing that she said is that it has to be focused on renovating the existing park for accessibility and added recreational opportunities. The other thing that she emphasized to me, and I didn't put on the slide, I wish I would have, is that the durability of your proposals as well as the long-term maintenance costs are also going to be figuring into their decisions. They are going to be looking at whether we have the infrastructure and capability to take care of the things we are asking for. Okay. So we decided, after talking with some members on the board, as well as a lot of talk in the committee, as well as, oh my God, I was trying to figure that out the other day. I think we've spent about 30 hours talking about these grant applications so far, between our park vision quests and our meetings and our events where we're talking and that. But we decided Skeet Skirman, Brookside Park, and Algonquin would be our 3 choices. Markham is a lovely park. It is actually our largest park. It's at 55 acres, but it doesn't necessarily fit the criteria for and being a good contender for this particular grant opportunity. There's not a long history of community use that can be demonstrated for that park. It's not necessarily super easy to access. It's near or adjacent to a relatively small neighborhood compared to the other ones. But we're really hoping to use millage funds and other funds that we can get our hands on to upgrade it to an actual formal nature trail, I think is is what everybody's talking. Because of the logging road that was installed out there in 2017 to do the logging, there's actually a lovely 1.2-mile loop trail already out there. And there are some spots that need to be regraded and kind of made a little nicer. But ultimately, it's pretty much ready to go with some vegetation restoration and signage and that sort of thing. Markham, though, is also one that vehicle control would be very beneficial out there because the lawn is constantly getting torn up. Okay. So Skeet Skirman Park, we all have been out there, I think. You'll see here that this is a little bit different than what we're used to looking at with Skeet Skirman. We are talking to the Calhoun County. I've been working with Joyce Fundel, the assessor, and we have been talking to the Calhoun County GIS administrators, I guess. And surprise, surprise, the GIS might not be quite accurate, and it doesn't look like anybody potentially has done the plat work for what happens to the land that was under the mill pond after the dam collapsed. It appears by reviewing records that we actually may own all of that, which puts our park up to about 7.61 acres, potentially. But we are researching to find out legally how that's going to work out for us. Okay, but it would be really lovely as part of maybe phase 2 and 3 of what we're thinking out in Skeet Skirman on our vision quest as we go out there, right? But the grant application is going to focus on the historic footprint of the park, and we're hoping to provide one, because this grant opportunity is specifically about providing universal access to places that we don't have it. We'd be just renovating our current gravel parking lot, not worrying about the bridge over from that parking lot quite yet, but installing a new universally accessible paved parking just off M37 right there. I don't know, does this have a pointer? And those would have handicap accessible parking spaces and would be connected to the other dark lines that you see around there, are also accessible paved trails around the entire park. One of the things about being universally accessible is that you have to have universally accessible trails around that connect every single one of your park elements, okay, to be competitive for this type of funding. We are recommending also that we renovate our current bathroom, well, demolish and replace our current bathroom with a universally accessible 2 to 3 stall restroom building, and that it face towards the pavilion and play area, the entries for those, so that people can see their kids going in and out of those restrooms from where they're sitting, which would be lovely. Some of the big upgrades also, and I think will help with some of the issues we have with erosion, is installing accessible recreational stream access points. There's an example of one that everybody on the committee really likes the looks of. And I think would fit in with the character of Skeet Skirman really well. It'll provide recreational access. You could even put a kayak in right there if you wanted to. You could be fishing from there. You could be wading in the stream, catching crawdads, or sitting up on a bench and watching your kids do those things, and without negatively impacting and causing erosion on the shore. This would be hardened off specifically for access. We also need lighting out there, and we're working on that right now. We certainly would love to upgrade the lighting. In the grant application, we will be talking about fully upgrading the lighting with all new poles, ballasts, things like that. And very likely, the professionals, when they get out there, will look around and say we are way underlit as far as the number of poles that are even out there and things like that. So, and then around the shoreline on the outside of our trail, we would restore that shoreline with native riparian vegetation and plantings, and that will also help quite a bit with mitigating erosion in that area. And note that the trail is exactly about 1/10 of a mile. So somebody could go out there and walk 10 laps and know that they have walked a mile, which is really great. Next, we have Brookside. So this is where we did our park cleanup on the 6th. This is another one that is lovely, and I had no idea until I started digging into this how big the park actually is. It's 21 acres on the lower part, and then we have a half an acre for the annex where the basketball courts and tennis courts are. And it's really only the upper part and the lower part where you can see where the mowed lawn is that people use on a relatively regular basis. Up north is what was historically called Simmons Ball Field. There is an old baseball backstop there. It's not in terrible shape. It's not going to fall over or anything like that, and the fence really isn't in horrible shape either. But this is where the park gets turfed up quite a bit by four-wheelers. Okay, we think vehicle control, whether we get a grant or not, vehicle control will be really important to install along Simmons Avenue, up along that part of the park. And then the lower part of the park, while very pretty, it is almost constantly flooded or saturated. Soil is saturated because that is a riparian area. It's a wetland. And I think the entire committee has been out there several times. I walked out there with Mr. Diana, the DNR biologist, and I think consensus has come to we would be better off just restoring that back to riparian forest to actually integrate into the forest that is the rest of the park and stop fighting the losing battle. We don't need to mow that anyway. The very upper left corner is high and dry, but that is about it in that whole southern part of that park. But this is also surrounded by a huge neighborhood, and I just did a very quick count and estimate out. And oops, what did I do? Awesome, thank you. I counted, estimated about 250 or so homes that are, have direct access to this park. Lots of younger families, lots of play equipment in these small yards, and it seems like lots of older folks too. And so what we thought would be a great idea for out here is, like I said, restoring that southern half back to riparian forest, installing a universally accessible, and it says quarter mile there, and that's actually a typo. That entire trail could be a half-mile loop. And we were thinking that an accessible nature trail that could be a mix of packed gravel as well as boardwalk where needed, because when you start getting close to, or on that southern half close to Wabascan Creek, it starts getting pretty wet down there, and we don't want people tromping around. It's right there next to Wabascan Creek. The other thing we thought was missing actually in this neighborhood was a universally accessible playground with bench seating for parents and grandparents to hang out, a tamper-proof trash can, and that playground would be kind of on that loop route, so you'd have access to that trail also. Keep that open play field on the north end with this one, and probably even keep the baseball backstop. And this is actually a relatively simple suggestion here. We just need to repave and then repaint lines for tennis and basketball, and possibly add pickleball lines to the tennis court. That sounded like a popular idea. I'm not sure how popular it would be for this particular neighborhood, but we may get people driving in and over for it. I think Bailey Park has got pickleball courts and things like that, so I don't know. I don't know how much more it would cost us to just paint the lines on our own tennis court. So we can think about that a little bit more. But the fence is in pretty good shape, which is good. This is asphalt, and it is cracked. You can see the big crack in the middle right there that goes kind of by the basketball court and out to the edge of the tennis court there. Tennis court net. It's cracked and kind of sinking in, and there's lots of grass and moss growing all over this. So kids still use it. The basketball side is better than the tennis court side, probably because it gets used more. It keeps the grass out, right? But we do have two relatively nice benches that were recently installed that are already there in nice spots to spectate from. But we'd also, I think that's it, actually. Trash and repaving and repainting on this one. And then our last spot is Algonquin Park, and this is a little over 3 acres behind Fire Station 3. It is our only other playground we currently have. It has great access to utilities. Everything we could possibly want if we wanted to upgrade this is already there, which is very nice. And I don't know if anybody's ever been curious about that half-buried building with the fence around it over there. It is apparently an old decommissioned pump house, water pump house. And this is another neighborhood park, really. It's surrounded by a very large neighborhood with it's already somewhat active because of the playground and people walking their dogs and things like that, but I think would be used even more here. And based on the feedback I've seen, people have really liked the events that we've had out there. I will say, and maybe I'll just text Jason, there are 2 broken swings on that swing set right now that look like they just needed bolts to make them functional again. So this is our idea for that space. We would like to still have a nice open playing field, but renovate and make an accessible playground, as well as install a universally accessible 2-stall restroom and a 60 by 20 pavilion with electricity, similar to what we have out at Skeets there. Also installing a universally accessible paved trail around the entire thing, as well as down the middle there, because we thought in the future, if we wanted to have any sort of vendor type events, that would be a lovely space for it. And we also thought, because it's right behind the fire station and in a big neighborhood, perhaps installing fitness stations and key points around that loop would be really nice. You can see an example of one up on the left there. There's lots and lots of different options, so we could probably install 20 of them around this trail if we wanted to. And this one works out to also being 1/10 of a mile as you go around. So you could do 10 laps and you know you've gone a mile. Okay? Now remember, these are just concepts. They're not the exact final design. This is what Spark is looking for are some really good ideas that if they give you the money, you can then turn around and hire, do a request for proposals and hire a professional to help you work through the formal process of what design, engineering, and that sort of thing. They'd be your project manager, and they'd also, facilitate the design work, the formal design work, engineering, and then finally the construction on this. Okay, similar to the River Road project, right? Okay, and that's it. Thanks. Do you have any questions?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work and all the committee's work on that. We appreciate that. A lot of work. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and we'll work on getting that Sparks grant together. Okay, Okay, and then next on the agenda is legislative and intergovernmental relations. Steve Frisbee was not able to be here tonight. He did want me to let you know that pothole patching is in full swing. They were not able to get the hot mix asphalt until the end of April, so a little bit delayed. Park funding allocations, as Danielle mentioned, have been made. We received the check for Bedford on Monday. It was right after Danielle left showing me the slides. So we have that in the bank. All right. And I don't see Representative Hotzma here this evening. Okay, then on to unfinished business, item 13. We still have, you'll recall that the rental ordinance revisions are still under review. They're close. We will be presenting the amended rental ordinance in June. Anything, Trustee Greenwood, that you need to add to that?
We're focusing mainly on enforcement. I think the suggestion is to keep it two-tiered, like we had it before. One of the issues that Mr. Savio is having, the landlords aren't updating their contact information, so that's something that needs to be addressed. Other than that, it looks pretty good. We just want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with statute, so.
Okay, so you would look for us to do the read-in for the amendment next month?
That's what we're hoping for.
Okay. Okay, and then I had mentioned last month that the county was looking at doing a countywide transit authority. There was a proposal and that we would have to, at this meeting, decide if we didn't opt out, our township would be included in that initial vote for a millage for an establishment of that authority. So we were set to do that, to opt out. However, it has been withdrawn at this point and delayed by the county. So we'll keep our eyes on that. I think there were just a lot of questions about how particularly rural townships would be served, yet we would all be taxed on that. So. Okay, and then petitions and new business. Starting off just with the discussion on, we were noticing that we have not established well the duties of deputies in the office, and so we have a requirement under law that the clerk has a deputy and the treasurer has a deputy, and those duties, according to MCL 41.77 for the treasurer and 41.69 for the clerk, that they must each hire a deputy, and the supervisor may. We have, and I don't have one. I've not had one, but we have a superintendent/manager now. A deputy position is an appointment to a public office. A deputy serves at the pleasure of the official, which means that the deputy's appointment depends on the official holding that office. The number one authority of a deputy is to serve as a substitute for that official. So that said, that means that unless there are real extreme circumstances, when the official is not in that office, the deputy should be there. That's so that that office can remain open and so that we can serve the public. There's a lot that goes on in those offices in terms of people needing a notary from the clerk's office, people needing to file their absentee ballots, for example, people needing to talk about cemetery, FOIA requests. And the same thing in terms of the treasurer's office, in terms of paying taxes, getting tax receipts, dog licenses, a number of things. So this means that the deputy automatically has that authority to perform those statutory duties, thus keeping that office open. But it also means that a deputy has no authority beyond those situations. So any additional duties or job functions without further authorization by the board and the official. So we had a little discussion with the attorneys about the extra roles. Have we clearly established what those extra roles are? Should it be a part of our policy manual? And I don't know, Seth, if you want to add anything to that discussion.
I think you summarized it well. It's, the clerk and the treasurer have to have deputies, and they do. A supervisor is optional, and then you don't have one. So the way the deputy works is in the truest form. If the clerk or the treasurer is not in, then the deputy takes their place in absence. If they're sick, if someone passes away, then a lot of times, because offices are so busy, especially the clerk and treasurer, they do need assistance. So what the statute provides is that basically additional duties that could be agreed to with the treasurer and the board to assign to their deputies to basically help them out to do their jobs, because there's a lot that goes with each office. So when the question was posed to us about that, we asked whether or not, because I don't know whether or not there was established duties for each deputy. And this is just kind of formalizing that. It's almost like putting together a job description, basically. So in the event that the treasurer or the clerk, isn't in the office, then the deputy functions in that role. They don't get a vote on the board. They function.
They function in that role. Okay.
And then if the clerk or the treasurer are in the office and the deputy is there, then what are the duties? And that's basically all it is.
Okay, so I think we have had that discussion in terms of, and in fact, the salary of the deputy clerk, it is taken out of different pots in terms of elections and other area. You can speak to that, but so that the board is well aware of what the role is. I think we've been less clear on the deputy treasurer's additional duties that also should be then approved by the board. Is that correct?
Well,
would that be in a policy manual?
Under statute, that's how it works, and it's recommended that be consistent. If one deputy's office has it, then the others should too, just so everyone knows what the expectations are.
Okay. And in terms of hours, did you say that those hours for those additional duties could be set by the board?
It is set by the board.
It is set by the board?
Right.
Okay. So
with that said, if there's a allotted amount of hours, but then if the treasurer or the clerk isn't in, then the deputy comes in to fill that spot if they're not there.
Okay. So I would bring this up for board discussion, just in terms of, it's kind of loose in terms of our policy manual right now. We don't say really anything about that. I think because we've always understood that by statute, the elected clerk and the elected treasurer have the authority and must hire a deputy. It's been less clear on what these, as specified also in statute, what these additional duties are. So I don't know, Seth, would you suggest we tighten up our policy manual for future reference?
I think it's just a matter of enumerating what those duties are, what you want them to be, and what the clerk and the treasurer want them to be too.
Okay. In conjunction with the board. So should that be the elected official with a couple, not to violate open meetings, but with a couple members of the board to draft something in that regard?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily reinventing the wheel here. I mean, there is examples out there, and I think you find something that is a baseline in each office. The treasurer just kind of work off of it to see what works best for them.
Okay. All right.
So are you asking, just to clarify, are you asking for Erica and I to write down what our deputies do?
Yeah, I think that's, or what you need them to do too.
What we need them to do? Okay.
Right. So if we could have that maybe by our next board meeting, what do you all think? Anyone else? That's in 3 weeks.
So will that include like staffing hours to make sure that the offices are open? I mean, how does training work, like when deputy and elected official need to go to training?
But sometimes, obviously, sometimes that's unforeseen, where, there's been a vacation that's already been established. It would be really not good for the deputy clerk, for instance, to be gone during elections, right? Because clearly she is needed in that role. Likewise, it would be not good for the deputy treasurer to be gone during, especially towards the end of tax season, winter and summer, where there's a lot of activity at that window. Certainly for both of them to be gone at the same time during that period, which has happened several times now, has made, it puts a burden on the staff here, the elected officials here, and we end up with an angry citizens. So I would just like to make sure that we have it in our policy manual. It's clear what the expectations are, that as a deputy, your primary role is to serve in the absence or illness or vacation time of that elected official. The other duties have to be agreed upon by the elected official and this board, because that extra compensation is something that we're approving. Does that make sense?
Do deputies, are they able to cross offices to fulfill any type of things?
We cannot, there's a special bond for the treasurer and the deputy treasurer for collecting taxes.
Okay.
So if they're both gone, we cannot accept taxes legally from the public. And you can speak to the elections.
So the elections, we can deputize. So we can deputize.
There's not a
you to work
bond
out.
involved
There's not a
in that.
bond.
So, like,
But we do go to a clerk's conference every year, and it's a 3-day event, so.
So in those extenuating circumstances, when there is for instance, when they're going to be gone at the clerk's conference, we will try to have someone at least in that office, sitting in that office, so that the window is open, so that questions can be answered, or at least we can take notes as to what this individual needs. And then there's always constant communication between our clerk and deputy clerk back to the office when they are gone. And that's just a critical need for the citizens of the township, and it is part of our statutory duty. Yeah, I would suggest that, unless somebody else has anything, Trustee Dingman?
No, I understand what we're saying.
Okay. Treasurer Miller, anything? Trustee Hires? Okay, so for the next board meeting, let's work on trying to establish what those additional duties, we know what they are in terms of fulfilling the statutory duty of each of your roles, but we're probably less aware of what the additional duties are for the deputies during the non-busy seasons. Again, I know there's a lot that goes on in the clerk's office in terms of FOIA, cemetery, record keeping, minutes, publications, elections, and there's financial stuff that's going on in the clerk's or treasurer's office as well, besides the collection of taxes. But I just think the board needs to be aware of that. We need to know what we're compensating the deputies for, if it's fair, if it's reasonable, how many hours are reasonable, really, for the responsibilities. Again, that's a fiduciary duty of the board. Okay, so for next month, we'll look at the draft of that in terms of deputy duties. Okay, anything else? Seth, anything else you need to add to that discussion?
No, nothing additional, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to Resolution 5/18/23/22. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to appoint the following individuals to the Road Advisory Committee: Mike Steib, liaison from the Planning Commission; Mark Hires, liaison from the board; Scott Carr, Kevin Davis, and Tim Cooker. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Greenwood, Dingman. Okay, discussion?
What's the purpose of the advisory committee? What's our goal?
The advisory committee is looking at, we did not submit to the county a commitment in terms of the maintenance this time. We are looking at quality control issues, looking at how we prioritize our roads, and it was suggested to me by several members of the community that maybe we should be looking at, if we can, and the county is moving in that direction, contracting, doing some of our own contracting on local roads, that maybe we would get a lot more bang for our buck, and maybe be assured of more timely response and just quality control.
Well, and I've noticed the last chip seal job they did last year is really crappy,
Yeah.
to be blunt.
Right,
And I just delivered a piece of equipment to Gull Point.
Right.
And that's the same, that stuff was coming off, it's not
right.
it's huge.
And we have
There's a
several,
stone.
these gentlemen were recommended in terms of their knowledge and experience and expertise with roads, road construction, road maintenance. So I think it will be a great asset to the township.
Are they all township residents?
Yes.
So what is the time frame that we're looking at for the committee?
I have not established a time frame yet. I believe Mike will chair that because he's not busy enough. But we do need to look, I don't know how much we'll be able to do this season, actually, but we definitely need a 5-year, 7-year plan as to how we're going to, what costs are, and actually, is the county reasonable or not, compared to what we could potentially do. They canceled the county canceled that one meeting where they were going to be talking a little bit more about.
They're getting a lot of pushback from all the municipalities in the county
Okay.
that are requesting specifically to be able to
Do their
self-perform
own.
work.
So we haven't resolved that yet. So I think they're still working on that behind the scenes. So, okay, so you had authorized me to establish this committee last month. We have the 5 names before us. We have a motion by Greenwood, second by Dingman. Any further discussion on this?
Would the superintendent be part of?
He will be sitting in on those meetings, yes.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? Okay, roll call?
Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
I think I should abstain. I'm voting in my own name.
Oh.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Faracco, yes. So we have 6 yes and 1 abstain. Motion carried.
Okay. Thank you. And then Resolution 518-2323, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to appoint Joe Zima as alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Dingman?
Support.
Beamish? Discussion?
Is he here?
Is Joe here? No, I don't think so. They were missing, they did not have an alternate, and there was one individual that sometimes was not able to be there during that important time of Board of Review, so, or Board of Appeals. So that's the reason for that name being put forth by the assessor. Okay? All right. Roll call.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Excuse me. Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Faracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay. Next, we have Resolution 518-2324, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the expenditure of up to $16,000 for picnic tables and trash bins for Skeet Skierman Park using a portion of the Parks and Rec County millage allocation. And you've seen the 3 bids. They are on file, and the purchase will be made through Pilot Rock. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Hires?
Support.
Greenwood? Discussion?
Okay. So I like the idea. However, I know when we have reservations in the park, they have all of the picnic tables because they're all under the pavilion. So if you were to say on a sunny day, I think I'm going to go have a picnic, you would have to sit on the ground. So I think it would be nice to increase this amount just a little bit to maybe get 3 additional tables that we could deploy out in the grass
Okay.
so that other people can enjoy the picnic at the same time.
Won't that cause problems with mowing? Unless you create a base for it.
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
So we have a motion on the table. Are you
Is this just a
making an amendment?
suggestion because I...
To amend it.
Well, we're talking about an additional cost here then that we're not approving. I mean, we're approving up to $16,000. That was for a specific number of tables and trash receptacles.
Okay.
Is that,
Is
and
there- Is there a way to add additional, or is there a way to amend the dollar figure?
I think
So
there's
the table,
there's a,
like with, so
Go ahead,
we are
Danielle.
tax exempt, right?
Mhm.
And each of those tables, this is off the top of my head, I don't have the estimate in front of me, but a little over $1,000 a piece.
Mhm.
So if you, I don't know if you can amend and say up to
20,000?
20,000 should cover
Okay.
the shipping and
Okay. So,
to add those 3 additional tables.
without
do you want-
further investigation, I'm not good with amending, because, yeah, by rights,
There's
those
3
would be
bids.
on a concrete pad, which we don't have a cost for.
would all the tables fit under, if you got the extra tables, would they fit under for an
Currently,
event?
there are 18 tables.
Okay.
Now, so I think, and I think a lot of other people, when they're all under there, it's a little too smushed. So that's why we went with 10.
Mhm.
So the 13 definitely could fit under there.
Okay.
But I agree with Joyce that it would be nice to have a few deployed out. And I know Jason has talked that he can essentially, sink a little post and put an anchor and a chain on them. So you can still move them, but they can't get thrown into the stream, which would be much closer for the tables that are deployed out into the park.
Okay.
And, like a 4x4 post sunk in the ground with a little bit of quickcrete and
Okay.
an eye bolt on the top of it, put a chain through, I
Right.
didn't think would be outrageous.
Okay, so I'm hearing you would like to amend the motion for up to $20,000. We don't specify the number of picnic tables here, so that would still fall under that bid because they did itemize the cost of those
Yeah.
tables. So would that be acceptable with you, Trustee Beamish, that it's amended to 20,000? Those would fit under the pavilion. And eventually we could have them out. And who knows what we're going to get in terms of the grant. I mean, we may end up being able to put, cement slabs or something in 3 different places with these picnic tables in the future, if you wanted to move them out from under the pavilion.
I kind of hate the planning commission, or the Parks and Rec's already made all this work on there. I mean, are there 3 tables that would be suitable to be saved out of the lot that's there and use those out and about?
They're in poor shape, aren't they?
They are.
So what we're recommending, at least half of them probably do actually just need to be dismantled and trashed, at least. And what we had shared is that the additional tables could be redeployed at the fire stations or the other parks, so we could put 3 of those out and about and wait. But I don't know, do those 3 go out in skeets, or do we replace those 3 with 3 that would match the others and then take those and put them at other parks or the fire stations? I guess are the choices.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
For a nice upgraded look with the painted pavilion and restroom, it would be lovely.
To have 3 extra
And we have
tables.
the millage funding to do it,
You have-
and that would get us to.
You would meet the-
We wouldn't be at risk of not
Spending it by
out.
February. Okay.
Yeah. we would
So
pretty much-
I have heard an amendment offered by Clerk Veracco to change the dollar amount here to up to $20,000. Do we need a second on that motion to amend?
I believe you do.
Yep. Do you want to, anybody?
I'll support.
Okay. So motion to amend the resolution to $20,000 by Veracco, support by Greenwood. Any other discussion on the amendment?
So you're talking, Joyce, about keeping these under the pavilion and not out in the open area?
I personally think that it would be nice to have them outside.
Okay.
Just because when they reserve the park, they reserve the pavilion, all of the tables are there.
Okay.
And if you walk the park right now, there's a lot of dog. I mean, you can't put a blanket on, you can't sit on the ground out there right now. So I think it doesn't give you a place to have a picnic if you were going to. It's just that one family that has it reserved gets to have all the tables. So I think if you're making it new, you're making it something fresh, everyone gets to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion, questions on the amendment?
My only question and thought is kind of on the tail of what Barry said. If we get the extra ones, it's been talked about, but I mean, when we get the extra ones, would the money also include then a post or a pole to secure them and a pad to put them on? Because instantly what I thought of is we talked about the weight of them as an asset, that it would take motivation to drag them and throw them in the creek, but we know, people will do that. But then I thought, okay, if they weigh that much and they're on the grass and maintenance is out there mowing and weed whipping and everything else, they've got to move them around. If they're not on a pad that they just trim around. So I don't know if it's realistic to say we're just going to stick them out on the grass, because
Not yet.
they've got to be moved to maintain the park and keep it looking as nice as you folks are going to make it. And I don't want somebody wrenching their back trying to jerk a 350, 400-pound picnic table out of the way to lawn room.
Oh, turn around and stuff.
It may make
so-
more sense to keep the the new ones, the heavy ones, under the pavilion and use some of the better old ones in strategic places for now, as long as they're secure.
I mean, and
because
then-
then they can be moved for mowing. They're easy to
Right.
move.
And that was my only reason for thinking that is, man, I don't want somebody to,
Yeah.
I don't want our guy to, end up
Yeah.
at the chiropractor or the surgeon because he's moving one of these monster picnic tables that we're getting to last a good long time, and I agree with that. But I mean, unless we have a plan to make a pad to set them on, I was looking.
Yeah, no, hopefully,
I guess I was just thinking of
fingers
the
crossed,
problem.
eventually there will be as part of the grant-funded
And that
refurbish of the park, but
That was
yeah,
my
we're not
thoughts.
quite there yet.
That was my thoughts when I said that about a pad. I don't think we want to put a pad down now because they have a grant going forward, then the pad's going to be torn out later because the grant now has a different configuration, so
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of cart before the horse a little bit on this
Yeah.
one.
Okay,
That's how you
so,
look at it.
yeah, so we have the motion for $20,000 by Clerk Veracco, second by Greenwood. We've discussed and we're satisfied with our discussion. So let's vote on the amended motion, or the amendment, I'm sorry.
Okay. Trustee Beamish.
No.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
I'm afraid no for right now.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Veracco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes, I like it.
Trustee Hires.
Yes, but somewhat qualified.
Okay. 4 yeses, 3 noes, motion carries.
Okay. Okay. Is that it? Is that it on 24? Okay, so now the whole thing now is resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the expenditure of up to $20,000 for picnic tables and trash bins for Skeets Gearman Park using a portion of the Parks and Rec County millage allocation. Okay? Motion?
So moved.
Miller, second?
Support.
Greenwood. Okay, now any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Sure, yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes.
Okay.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, 20,000 amended, okay. All right, last resolution of the evening, Resolution 5/18/23-25, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to authorize the superintendent to begin advertising for the assessor position in preparation for the retirement of current assessor Fundal. Do you have a motion?
Support. Support.
Hires and Dingman. Okay, discussion?
Good luck.
But it can't happen soon enough.
Right, so Joyce plans to retire, I believe, in December. And we would like some time to have the new person work with her in the office. And so I think we can get this, a draft advertisement ready to go and do that ASAP.
What does the position look like? Is it the 1 day a week? Is it part-time? Is it?
It seems that what we have right now has been, does anyone have any difficulty with how it's been operating? I think Joyce's Fundal is very efficient. She does her job well. And I think if we could have something similar to that same setup where she is here to answer questions on the person could, I guess we could work with the person as to whether it would still be Tuesdays, but 1 day a week. She was also very good in terms of answering emails and phone calls from home remotely too. So I think that has to be a person's availability. Generally, it looks like these individuals, the assessors they have several townships. It's not just one township that they work for. So that seems to be probably what we would be looking for in that regard too. And Joyce has agreed to work with Dennis in terms of helping draft that advertisement. Any other discussion, concerns? Okay, motion by Hires, second by Dingman. Roll call.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. And that concludes the business of the meeting this evening. We will now have our last public comment. At this time, you can, if you wish to address the board on any township business, you may address the board now for 3 minutes. Same rules apply.
I'm still Justin Schatz. I have to tell the board and the chairman here that you are bad at this job at every single level. My mother's neighbor Joe tried to come to the township meeting this month, but when he showed up at the regular time, no one was here. No sign on the door, no one to tell people. He said he saw some of the fire department kicking around, but they didn't feel obliged to tell a citizen what was going on and why the township wasn't having their regular meeting. I explained to him that it's part of our normal having meetings at odd times and irregular days and things to try and dissuade the people from coming. Much like this 2-hour-long painful meeting tonight. If this doesn't tell you you're bad at your job, I don't know what does. If you have a 45-minute parks presentation, that doesn't go within the normal monthly meeting. These meetings shouldn't last 2 hours and make people never want to come back and have to get up and walk out in the middle. If you're doing your job right, you wrap it up in about an hour for the monthly meeting and not have to have 30 extra meetings a year. When I started trying to help when you took over here, you went crazy over the most simple suggestions like open bids. But yet we went on to contract with CEI with a no-bid contract to give them almost $1 million of this taxpayer money. So they can, without bid, make their money. Much like we have in our attorneys here without bid, instead of a parliamentarian. If you had any ethics, if you had any business at your job, you would use a parliamentarian in place of a lawyer. Do you know what the cost savings would be to the township? Actually, a parliamentarian might actually know something. Instead of sitting over there when you ask him questions and say, the board should do this, likely, maybe, if you can't quote a law, if you can't quote an MCR or an MCL to back up what it is you're saying, why are we paying to have a lawyer there? For ums and maybes? I don't think this board has any authority to tell the elected clerk and the elected treasurer what they do with their deputies. And trying to assume government authority seems to be a real problem around here instead of just doing the job that you should be doing. You know, you made the biggest embarrassment of yourself imaginable when you said on camera, we were just blessed with this $5.1 million of taxpayer money that none of us have to pay back. Where do you think taxpayer money comes from? Are you that inept? That is our money. It didn't come from the sky. It didn't come from the lottery. It came from taxpayers, and you're wasting it. Just like the industrial marijuana grow already solved the problem with a deeper well, so have other citizens.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schatz. Anyone else wish to address the board? Mr. Wormer?
Again, my name is Neil David Wormer. I'm a Calhoun County Medical Care Facility. I work maintenance there. I have 2 sons. I live at 3045 P Drive North, Battle Creek, Michigan, which is just inside Bedford Township. I came here last month to tell you about a dump, ask you what we were going to do about it. You informed me that Battle Creek Police Department has said that there is nothing there. I want you to all take a look at these 3 photos. Every one of these photos was called to Battle Creek Police Department for them to come out. First one, breaking and entering at the storage facility at Packaway Storage, where I was told that that was not the same owner, which is Bauer Storage that's owned it for, I don't know, since about 2000, 2001 up to the GIS. The other one is what looks like drugs to me. I don't know. Battle Creek Police Department said it was anhydrous sulfate, but we cannot tell because they say they threw it away 10 minutes after they came to my house and picked it up. With no evidence, nothing. And the third one in the middle is the dump that is behind my house in the woods that you're saying is not there, where we talk about in this meeting about cleaning up parks, cleaning up all this stuff. But everybody here has seen this and knows that this has been there for over a year, but we don't care to even call the owners of the property to inform them. I'm not at all saying that the property owners did any of this. Why would a property owner do this to their own property? They're older. What I am saying is that all 3 of these things, just those 3, and there's plenty more, like a bomb that was in my yard with this officer right here that was there at my house at that time too. This happened from 2020 till now, and not one of these 3, just these 3, were ever made a report by the Battle Creek Police Department. Not one. The middle one, I went to see it with Jim Blocker and Troy Gillian and informed them that that was there. And on the same exact day that I informed them it was there, they told me that the landowners contacted them on the exact same day, which they had no idea that I was even meeting with the Battle Creek Police Department, to tell them that I should not come back on their property. But how did they know who I was? They've never met me before. They've never seen me. They've never nothing. What I'm asking for is, why would we allow the Battle Creek Police Department to do this? Why would we sit up here and talk about cleaning up everything, parks and everything, but you're allowing this to happen to somebody's property and nothing being done? You're allowing my sons to come outside and have this much of whatever that is in a brick form laying in their front yard. That's no care to anybody here, no care to anything. What if they would have done that? What if it would have been real and they would have just accidentally took it as young kids and done something stupid and died? But that's no big deal because nothing. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr.
Werner, that is.
Werner.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
3045 P Drive North.
And just as a clarification here, I want to let you know that I did get a phone call from that property owner just recently, actually last week. And he went out there with the DNR with Eagle, and he had already ordered a dumpster. It is not anything that he has put on his own property. He is installing trail cameras, and he will have that cleaned up So we can all be happy about that. That dump site, which he didn't create on his own property, is being cleaned up by the end of this month.
I thought it wasn't there, though.
I
said last week, last
well,
month it
I think
wasn't
you
there.
misinterpreted what I said.
No, you said that
But
no,
regardless of that, it's a win, isn't it?
Yeah,
So we
I
have,
bet it is, yeah.
it's being,
I bet it is.
we should be
It ain't
happy
over.
about
Point
that.
of order.
All right, thank you
We need to finish.
very much. And then,
Thank you.
any other comments from public?
This is what we're doing right here.
Any other comments? Mr. Hagler?
Adam Heikkila, former supervisor here. The AMSA is the centralized controls over our community. It's the way that, Battle Creek obviously has something up their sleeve because AMSA has been the way that they've been able to help control all of the surrounding municipalities for a very long time. You all are supposed to do your jobs here and not do things for profit. Your things like your permits. Someone told me recently it was $160 for a fence permit. I don't know if is that accurate? Sound about right? Maybe. So if that's the case, I mean, it's because that's the same cost for every municipality around Battle Creek that's a part of AMSA. Because it's a centralized control so that we're no different. We can't make ourselves appear or do anything better or different for people because we need to be just like everyone else. It's just been a way that they have controlled and manipulated us. Now, the lies that you tell here, Supervisor Jones, is just unfathomable that you would continue to do this on camera. You said that you don't have a deputy. Well, no, you don't currently. You didn't explain, though, how you did have a deputy. Did you not have a deputy now? Was Karen not your deputy while you were in office here? No, but she was. Abso-freaking-lutely she was. We have a two-tiered system here. You have allowed the people that come up to this podium to turn around and address the board when they're your people. When it's part of your system, you allow them to do a political thing and address the board, everyone else. But your rules is, and every meeting you ever go to, people that come, it's to address you, the board. Not for them to politic for the crowd. But you have a two-tiered system. You're just too ignorant to understand. The power has clouded your brain. What MCL says that this board has ability to control the deputies? Seth made a comment about it. Oh, yeah, you have the ability. I want to know and hear, please, before the end, what is the MCL that gives the clarification for you all to control these two people's deputies, who is nothing but an extension of those two individuals with all of their duties, is what it says, outside of voting here at the board. This is you all being tyrants. Stemming from you. Actually, it stems from him, because he's been around here doing this crooked stuff with the attorneys for a long time, since his inception of his business, as I stated, which he still hasn't come after me for because it's the truth. You'd sue me for slander, wouldn't I, if I was lying about you and your crookedness?
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Heikkila. Anyone else that wish to address the board this evening? Anyone else?
Keep smiling.
Mr. Coach?
It's pretty bad when they don't know I am before I even get up here. I'll pull back a little bit. I'm a little concerned about that. Might get attacked. Steve Koch, Colonial Drive, on the other side of the old West Point Theater. I understand that every one of you is going to be running for office again. Congratulations. I'm hoping that you'll follow the Constitution and you'll believe in the Bill of Rights, and that you'll also turn around and support your oath of office. And a little concerned about what's been going on around here for quite a while. People being arrested for speaking, people being called out of turn, and police escorting them out. And it's amazing. I've been here a long time. I've been to a lot of these meetings over the years, off and on, and I've never seen anybody arrested here. And I know that some of you have been here for a long time, and I don't think you can remember anybody being arrested here, being dragged out or otherwise. But it seems to be the new pattern here, and it almost seems like coercion to me, intimidation, coercion. And so I thought maybe next time, just for you guys, I'll show up in full battle rattle. And if you don't understand what battle rattle is, ask this lady here, I bet she knows what battle rattle is. And I'll show up in full battle rattle legal and see how it feels. So anyhow, I wish you all the best in your reelection when you get reelected, and hopefully the individuals that are getting reelected actually live in Bedford Township. That would be nice. And hopefully the other individuals can maybe keep their hands off of other people that they shouldn't be touching to begin with, which we won't comment on that one. I can honestly say at 61 years old, I've never laid my hands upon anybody, ever, in my life. Some people can't say that. You have one.
Thank you for your comment.
I'll be down in Tennessee.
Please use the podium if you have,
Oh,
do you want to
okay.
use the rest of your time?
I'm sorry.
You've got 1 minute. I've got
One
my
minute.
watch.
Just to let you know, I'm going to be leaving here because I got to go to bed because I got to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm going down to Tennessee to look at 120 acres of land down there that I'm going to possibly buy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coach. Anyone else wish to address the board? Anyone else?
Hello, Danielle Zollner, Albert Road. As a citizen and the Parks Committee Chair, I wanted to thank you for approving the resolution tonight and also apologize if I did actually speak for 45 minutes. I was asked to speak for 15.
All right.
I got excited.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. Anyone else wish to, Mr. Van Gotham?
Dick Van Gotham, 650 Linwood Avenue. This is the only public meeting place I have ever seen a citizen assaulted for walking into the building. They don't say it didn't happen, no low contender. So I was standing right there. Could you bring your nose down a little bit, please? I had another meeting tonight, scheduled at the same time. I had to attend. And when it was over, I said, I gotta see if I can catch the end of our township meeting. Where you live? It's Bedford Township. And everybody started laughing. What's going on over there? And yeah, you guys, a lot of pride. You use words like due diligence. So there was one plan submitted for the sewer and water, correct? Battle Creek's plan. Is that due diligence? We have one engineering company overseeing it. Is that due diligence? You use words like esprit de corps and decorum. Again, citizens being attacked. You created a caustic police state. I see we're back to normal now. What a joke.
Thank you, Mr. Van Gotham, for your comments. Anyone else wish to address the board this evening? Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we will go to trustees' personal privilege. Trustee Beamish?
Nothing from this end.
Nothing?
I just want to thank Ms. Olmer for the presentation. I realize it was long and you didn't intend it that way, but man, it's going to be beautiful. I wasn't expecting that. Certainly wasn't expecting that. It's going to be impressive. Thank you.
We've been working hard and talking a lot.
All right, Trustee Hires?
Yeah, I also want to thank the Parks and Recs. What you're doing is amazing. I know it's going to make things better. It's obviously a lot of work. Really
Everybody keep
wonderful.
their fingers crossed on June 26th when we hit that submit button.
Good luck with
Okay, and then Trustee Greenwood?
I just want to echo, thank you for your presentation. I don't think you should be criticized for it in any capacity. You provided a comprehensive report, so we really appreciate that. As far as police state, we've always had police officers here. Rules of decorum started with
Mr. Schatz?
Supervisor Heikela.
No comments.
There are videos regarding rules of decorum. We've been operating under the same standard. On a side note, I went through Kirby and along 48 and found some rogue chickens. So if you guys have chickens, please keep them in their pen. I don't want them getting hit by a car. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, and then elected officials. Clerk Faraka?
Couple things. Spring cleanup is this Saturday from 8 to noon at Station 3 on Morgan Road. No tires. You cannot bring tires. So, and you do need proof of residency, so bring your driver's license or... And then another event that's happening in our township is through the Lions Club, and it's their barbecue chicken dinner, which is May 20th from 11 o'clock until sold out. It never lasts longer than an hour or two because it sells out that quickly. So that's $12 per meal, and that's at the Lions Club by Skeet Scarman Park. And then the third thing is Gull Lake Schools will have another election on August 8th. So look forward to that. If you are Gull Lake Schools, you'll be getting your applications in the mail, followed by ballots.
That's another election. Treasurer Miller.
I'll try to make this quick. I've got a treasury report to give real quick, and you guys have a copy, and with all the bank statements underneath. The general fund has $2,612,048.32 in it. That consists of little buckets underneath, and in that is ARPA, which is restricted spending of $733,369.48. Medical cannabis has $353,147 in it. That one is also restricted, so it can only be spent on certain things. Parks and Recs has the same prohibitions, where it can only be spent on certain things, at $70,347.44, and then they have a second account that is being set up in the system right now. But we're going to make sure to discuss and make sure the process is going to be smooth for that, because it gets complicated when you move money between accounts. But to keep it short, the fire department has what I've got so far, and I've got to look farther into this because you guys have been running longer than these other three. But so far I've got $55,278.65, and that's by the books, and I don't like the way the books look, so give me a minute to look at that. Fire department 206, and that's your equipment account for your loans and your fire trucks. You've got $420,358.46 in that. Now, that leaves a remaining balance in the budget of free spending that we can use for operations at $979,546.96. The way we run that's gonna be okay. We need to start working on forecasts, and I was happy to see Mr. McKinley the next time and try to get us working on some forecasts to see how long that would last us, what's coming in, and make sure we're still going to always stay upright.
Is there state revenue funding come in yet?
Yeah, state revenue funding comes in, but it's cash receipted. It's among hundreds of things.
I didn't see it on the the initial report, the budget and revenue report, the revenue and expenditure report for this month through April.
Where did you see your revenue and expenditure report?
It was in the packet, the revenue and expenditure report.
Okay.
We can clarify that later. I'd prefer if we can get this earlier than to the night of the meeting. That would be great. And then I also want to just clarify that I don't know that we just have one line item for cannabis, because it's true, the licensing fees are...
Yeah,
that's one warning, Mr. Schatz. One warning. You don't speak.
I can explain that.
So the cannabis, I just want to say the cannabis licensing fees are indeed restricted to the operation and oversight and administration of marijuana. The excise tax that we did get recently is unrestricted, so that can be used on other items. So it's not all of the revenue that we're receiving from cannabis is not all restricted. So I just want to clarify that, because that would make a difference also.
That is correct. The license fees are restricted, and the excise tax that we got from the state goes just into the general trust funds.
Correct. So we should have, I want to make sure that's separated in the budget so that's clear in terms of restricted funds and unrestricted funds. And I know that is one of the things that Maynard Costerison was working with you on to clear up some of these issues. And we'll get better at that when the process people come to look at the processes.
Okay.
So
it's done and it's in front of you.
Okay.
It's done.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Road fund. The road fund is right now set up to cover the bond. And because the interest keeps accruing, we're actually going to get $8,741.07 back to the general account, and that'll grow just a little bit more. The way it was initially set up was money was kind of moved around from the tax account, it went into the tax reserve, and then when the general account got low, it went from the tax reserve over to the general. That makes a lot of general ledger entries, and it seemed redundant because we were going to need it anyways, and it was just a great, I don't know. I thought about it, and it was more streamlined to just have the road account cover the road fund. It's self-contained, and we don't have to do any more switching accounts to cover money. So what happened with the road fund was we were like $1 million short when we did the levy, and there was things that couldn't be accounted for. So the general budget does have to cover about $1 million of it. We're almost all the way through it. We're on year 5 of 7. So in 2 more years, the road payments are gone. But right now, the fund is self-contained. We don't have to put any money away. We don't have to do anything. It is holding its own. We are good there. Regardless of the $1 million deficit, it's all set. The way it sits right now, now they could change it. They could want to do it another way. It's not impossible to do something different. The sewer fund, now we don't have sewer or water that we own. We did sell in the 1980s. We sold our pipes to the city of Battle Creek for $1. But we do maintain, I believe, Joyce, you said the repairs on the lift stations around St. Mary's Lake?
Yes.
Okay. So
there's lift stations in other
areas too. That's true.
Ardmore,
Absolutely. There's somewhere around the parks, yep. Low water areas. But that's got $500,000 in it. I'm not sure how many lift stations that repairs. I don't know the cost of a repair. I think it's subjective to what breaks. Trust and agency, it says there's $4,000 in there right now, but I really got that account down to $100 minimum balance. They like to take a $5 account fee out of it. We don't want that dropping below 0. They call us. It's a big problem. And then we got to move $5. That's crazy to stop what you're doing to do that. But the reason for that account in general is because that's money I get from, like, the trailer parks have a tax. It's not mine. They give it to me, but I've got to separate it out. What is mine is 50 cents and what is county's is $2.50. So I take that, split it, but I use that account to do that, so that's not in the general. It doesn't muddy up the general account. And that's a side account to use for things that are kind of an in and out. It's a not mine account. And that should stay right around $100 minimum balance. I could use any number. I could go 0, or I could go 500, 1,000. 100 seems fair. $5 is all I got to worry about for the bank taking the fees out. The tax fund has got $100 left in it after the last cash checks, and that's how it starts out every season. It's $100. I settled with county. Everybody's happy. Everything looks good there. Parks and Recs, you guys know that, and she just showed you had $70,347.44. And then the fire department has a new account, but I also, for that reason, because it's not set up in the general ledger, and I want to make sure that it's cohesive to stop moving of money between accounts, because the way the general ledgers are also set up, I feel like that adds to our revenue. Whenever you move money, it doesn't realize if it's yours or not, it'll keep adding to the total. So I could turn $2 million into like $15 million in 5 minutes. So moving money around is not the best option. I feel like it clouds what's really happening. So we try to limit that, and then we do have the accountants coming in to work on the accounts, because I ran some reports for this, and 2 things. BSNA can create the reports we need, because I cannot find them. And I went through about 75 reports now in every different manner. I'm out of reports to go through. They don't have what we need. So I'm gonna have them build us a report, and then we're gonna go through it and make sure that, because I think me and you, Joyce, we saw that there was maybe some money in another account where it was GL'd in the wrong spot.
Yes.
So we've got to go back and look through and make sure everything gets into its right spot. And that's why I think that you guys have more money than it shows. So I can't wait to find it. Yeah. But in the accounts, physically the money is there. We just need to always know who it belongs to and that that's accurate. So, and that's it. Treasurer's report, Parks got their money. One more thing, the interest on it, I'm gonna try to, I don't remember, I didn't calculate last year. So you know, you went to the bank, the interest rate was nothing, but on average, I could guess about $11,000 a month at the rates, at about 3% right now, but I'm also trying to go as high as 4%. But basically, if I got us $11,000 a month, it'd be $134,000 a year, which would cover my whole office, me and my deputy, right, basically completely. Which normally they use the tax administration fund to do. There's a little administration on there, which covers my office to work, because like not much money comes into the township. You're right, we're not a corporation, we're not supposed to be making money. This isn't for profit, so a lot of the money we run off of comes off of the taxes from the state, the local community stabilization, state of Michigan. That's where most of our money comes from. Our tax portion is pretty nominal, about $85,000 a year is all we get from that. The other money that comes in is only what nuggets come from the building department, and a lot of that's restricted, where it says and tells us what we can and can't do with it. So especially when it comes to the marijuana licensing. So we just have to be careful what we do with what, and we make sure we keep track of it all. So we're working on that. One thing I did want to investigate was that there's a tax reserve fund here, and it has $1.4 million in it. I think some of your money's in the tax reserve fund for the fire department in both the 206 and the 205 fund, which is just the name of the funds. But I can't find the breakdown for that. I haven't been able to run a breakdown for that, so that's it. That's where we're at. We're working hard. It gets extremely complicated because this stuff in the system spider webs, and if one spider web's out of place, it messes everything up. So, thanks for listening, and thanks Danielle for I've got a fever for parks, so I am rooting for you for sure. But thank you everybody for being here. I know it's a long meeting. This should have been done last month. We had a couple misunderstandings. We'll just get that done as soon as we can and keep up on it.
Okay, thank you. All right, and supervisor's announcements. Just in terms of the CEI project, the CEI contract, that contract has been in existence since a former supervisor was here and signed it, and they have been our consultants since that time, consulting with us on wastewater project water. So there was nothing new. They've been our consultants, and so they were our consultants in helping to write this grant. I'm going to call it a grant and I'm as fiscally conservative as anybody in this room, in this entire room. They don't come more conservative than me. But this money was out there. It was federal government money. I think the federal government is in way too much debt. I don't like it either. But that money was going to be used. It was going to come to some community, and I am very glad that the residents on River Road and hopefully eventually down Ellis Road are going to have clean water to drink. There is not one tax implication, property tax implication, or implication for the residents of Bedford Township. I think it's a good thing that we were able to secure that. I'm happy about it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work that the township did. I'm proud of the work that CEI did on it. There are bid plan specifications that are in right now to Eagle. We will be submitting this third part of the application by February 5th. There will be a publication of bids advertised beginning next week, May 24th. The opening of bids is officially June 30th. So we are doing bids. This is not a no-bid contract at all. And then there will be resolution of the tentative contract award on July 13th. So again, just wanted to clarify some erroneous information that came out this evening. The other erroneous information is that when I ran for this position, I ran for trustee. I did not run for supervisor. I did not aspire to this position and had to be talked into this position. And it has been very interesting, I'll tell you. But when I ran as trustee, I said I'm running for one term, and I'm holding to that. I never intended to run again. Mr. Schatz, that's your second warning, and you'll be taken out again. And again, the minutes are simply a record of the actions, primarily the actions of the board. We cannot possibly write down everything that everyone says in its entirety. So again, just clarifying that. I too would like to thank Danielle Zollner. I also know as a teacher that sometimes we talk longer than we think we're going to talk, and I appreciate it. It was a lot of good information, and we love our parks, and we thank you for all the hard work that you're doing with those parks. So, and I do mean it when I say that we want everyone who comes to these, we want you to come, and we want you to speak, and we don't want you to be afraid to speak because you're going to end up on a video disparaged and trashed like I have been. Please be strong and speak whatever you want us to know in the future, okay? The reason we're trying to hold these meetings the way we are is to have some order so that everybody feels that they can be heard. Okay, and with that being said, and no other business before the board, I thank you for being here tonight, and we stand adjourned at 9:07. Thank you.
Access Vision, your voice, your community.